changes.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again for the second module in our series. This one is identifying constraints. Let's quickly recap what we talked about in the first lesson. That being the noted differences in behaviors and attitudes and approaches of those two different groups of marketers. The 10% group that was very confident and effective and efficient with their marketing decisions, and then another group of roughly 90% of producers that are frustrated and stressed out. Did you reflect on that? And I guess what group do you fall into? I'll let you answer that to yourself. We also discussed the importance of really identifying and understanding our cognitive behavior and how that works and how that may limit us at times, and specifically about confirmation bias. And I asked you to reflect on how you felt confirmation bias may be impacting your marketing. Did you think about that? If you're honest, most of us would agree that confirmation bias probably has more limitations than it does value or help for our marketing efforts. And it's really important to identify that because that's really a good first step in fostering change and growth. All right, let's talk about the constraints that hold most producers back in terms of more effective and efficient marketing. All right. When we talk about constraints and obstacles, we need to define that first. So by definition, a constraint is a limitation or restriction, a bottleneck or an obstacle restricting flow of something. Now in business, that something is typically restricting the flow of efficiency or productivity, advancement, or security. Now this is a very popular concept in manufacturing and has been for a long time now. There's actually a book written a number of years back called The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt explaining the theory of constraints. It's a good read. Look it up. Through our research over the last 30-some years, we've identified some of the most common constraints that producers wrestle with when they attempt to make their marketing decisions. Now, there are 4 kind of core areas that make up a variety of related constraints, so we'll spend time today talking about these 4 that are the most common and noted amongst producers. And they are these: time, knowledge, discipline, and factors revolving money. Now let me break these down real quick. Time, of course, the time devoted specifically to and towards marketing. Knowledge of marketing and all the different tools and approaches, and sometimes the acceptance of needing to learn and become more aware and use tools more wisely. The discipline, and it's one thing to tell yourself to be more disciplined. It's another thing to actually have factors in play that help create more discipline, and that's really what we want to talk about as we look at these constraints. Then of course, money, or money devoted specifically towards marketing. And that can be a very sensitive subject. I agree and I understand. A lot of producers feel they maybe have lost money or wasted money by making some marketing decisions or using some of the different tools. What we find is more times than not, it's more of a misappropriation of what they're trying to do and their focus than it is that the tools don't work. But money can be a huge obstacle as far as being able to budget money and use it correctly and with the right intent and comfort. But when these obstacles are present, of course, it creates major limitations. So it's important to identify, come to terms with, and find those habits from that 10% group that can help you overcome these obstacles. Now, none of these should come as a huge surprise to you, yet I'll challenge you by asking yourself if you've done anything to really help overcome them. Truly done anything meaningful to overcome any of these obstacles. Okay, as we look at doing a marketing assessment profile for producers, we then try to identify constraints, and we break them down to these 6 categories, which are related to the first 4 major ones we talked about. But knowledge and riskability or tolerance, which is more the money side, time, the discipline, and then also past experiences and control issues that may be some of those obstacles. And what we do is we try to find the one or two most glaring, most limiting obstacles, and then work with the producer, if they're engaged and interested, to set a course to overcome and eliminate these one at a time. And the goals behind this process are twofold. One is we want to bring some awareness to that obstacle and what it takes to overcome it, but then more specifically develop a plan and process to overcome it and move past it over time. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning module, we have developed this free assessment process for producers. We've used it for many years and it's been very powerful and very helpful. So please consider contacting me directly to set up time for a conversation on this assessment and go through that process. Or you can choose to go to our website and under the resource tab, you'll see there's a short 3-minute online assessment as a starting spot. Consider doing that, and then we can engage in a follow-up discussion afterward. Let that be your homework assignment for today. All right. The road to success has many steps. I want to touch on a few very important ones as it relates to the overall mindset of success, specifically towards marketing. As we talk through these, I'll do some comparisons as well. But the first one, of course, is the desire to find a competitive edge. Now, think of your production side of the production side of your operation. More than likely, over the years, and maybe right now, there has been a desire to increase efficiencies and increase your production. I always challenge producers, where's your desire or interest in really finding a competitive edge when it comes to your revenue or your marketing efforts? The next one, of course, having an accepting and realistic attitude. When it comes to production side and technology advancements, everybody is more than willing to adapt over time, but hold some of the new concepts and new technologies, in a good mindset and be ready to advance when they can. Again, how about your marketing situation, your marketing mindset? Are you accepting and realistic to really what it takes, what you can control and what you can't control? And that feeds into the next one, realization and identification. Realization of what you're up against and what you are in control of, and identification of what obstacles or what challenges you face. And then again, the next one, a willingness to find a solution to overcome them. And then the end is a long-term strategic focus on managing your revenue. Just like your operation, I'm sure many of you have a contingency plan set up and maybe a succession plan to make sure that you can transfer the operation to the next generation, or maybe you're bringing in the next generation now to work along with you. There's a long-term strategic build-out of what you want your operation to become and how to achieve those steps. Same thing is very important when it comes to your overall marketing and revenue management process. It needs to have that long-term strategic focus. And again, all these things have been identified in that 10% group of very confident and effective marketers. All right, so we discussed the need to identify your constraints and obstacles that are holding you back in effort to advance your overall process. And then, of course, plan and work to change that behavior and modify your behaviors over time. We can certainly dig into this more in individual conversations, but I did want to set the stage on those obstacles and the importance of identifying them. In the next module, we'll talk about the need to develop that strategic mindset. Now, these first 3 modules are really kind of that stage setting. Then we can get into some more of the details as far as what a good strategic approach looks like. Okay, I'm glad that you're engaged so far in this series, and I'm happy to be helping you through this journey and working to improve your overall abilities. Now, reflect on the message and work to identify any initial constraints you feel you may have. And certainly, please consider going to our website under the Resource tab and taking that 3-minute assessment. I think you'll find it valuable and helpful. Our contact information will be in the next slide, so again, reach out with any questions or for help. And until next time, be safe, be well, and be mindful of your marketing constraints.